Hello, everyone. I'm Kellie Elizabeth, and I'm here with Jane Elizabeth. And that's not a coincidence, or maybe it is. And we're from the Intuitive Intelligence Third Level program for 2017-2018. And today I'd like to ask Jane the question, what it means to be a spiritual leader.
Cool. Hey, Kellie. Awesome. So, I'll just share. I'm an intuitive chocolatier and a mama of three. And so for me, a spiritual leader is, it's funny because I don't see myself necessarily as a leader. I think when we hear the word leader, we think of people, standing up in front of people maybe, or people leading others. So I just always see this person, I guess having followers, is maybe my experience of a leader, and I don't always relate to that. For me, a spiritual leader is someone who is doing the work and embodying it. And the way that I do that in my own life is by being led by my spirit, by actually tuning into my heart space and connecting with, through prayer, through my heart intention, connecting with that infinite God aspect of myself or spirit, and just letting that move me and lead me in a way that I can mother from that place, which hasn't always been the case. It's been a case of, feeling frustrated, exhausted and depleted, and being spirit-led means pausing in those moments and taking that breath in and asking, how can I approach this situation from a more loving space? So that's me being a spiritual leader in my home. And I guess in regards to making the chocolates, that's a creative energy that moves through my body, that ignites so much passion and pleasure for me. And it just flows effortlessly that I just have to make it. It's like it just is this thing that takes over, that moves me to make the chocolates. So
Could you describe to us what, when you're making the chocolates, what's just a quick overview of the process that you might go through when you're making these chocolates?
Yeah. So say if someone, my favorite way to work is if someone is wanting to have a custom bespoke chocolate remedy made up for them. So they will reach out and connect, and I tune into their energy. And that's by getting into heart coherence, and I'm opening my heart space to be able to connect with source, connecting to their energy basically. And by doing that, I'm able to just feel into what they may need, or what's lacking as well. And then the flower essences, I work with flower essences as well. And so the flower essences often come into my mind, and they often just sort of jump in as a visual as to how they can support that person. And so I get like about a 15-20 minute view of, or a summary of, how some flower essences may work to support that person. And then I infuse them into the chocolate, and I make the chocolate up. And basically that's a custom, beautiful chocolate remedy catered specifically to someone with intentions for their soul to be able to, as they eat that chocolate, really feel and embody the messages of the flower essences in there, and allow it to actually activate that soul wisdom that's already within them as well, so that we don't always get to hear because we don't take the time out to pause or to slow down.
So I'm a mother of two children, and I generally gobble up chocolate at a rate of knots. And I have tried your chocolate, and it's probably the first chocolate that I ate much slower than any other chocolate. But do you have to give instructions on how to eat your chocolate?
Yeah, look, the business is evolving. The more I do see that this is spirit-led, like the business is evolving, and absolutely I'm looking at doing that now and creating more videos and things like that to really get the message out there that this is about taking that time out to really nurture yourself, so that you can have that moment to really make it sacred and claim this special moment for yourself as something sacred. sacred and to really open up your own heart's wisdom and connect to it.
And what do you think, now that you've almost finished the 3rd level training to become an intuitive guide, do you think your business will expand and grow from there? Do you have any inklings of what else is on the horizon?
And yeah, that's interesting, because it's like my mind could direct it in a certain way, and then also there's a surrender aspect involved, and being led into the unknown as well. So both play out a little bit. I have so many ideas, and I'm just trying to get clarity and focus now to how to fine tune it. But it does seem to be that every time I think, no, I'm not going to do chocolate, I'm just going to do intuitive readings, the chocolate seems to just always come back. It seems to always pull me back. And I feel like it is something, even if I'm offering it maybe as a medicine, like a remedy for people as well, because there's something about the cacao, the flower essences, yes, but there is something about cacao, and I haven't nailed it yet. It's just a gut intuitive feeling that she wants to gift us on this earth, and it is about awakening the feminine. It's about her, she has some wisdom that she wants to share, and I just feel like she's drawing me in and calling me in to really connect with her message and share that with the world. And I'm not 100% clear what it is, but I know it's got a hell of a lot to do with activating the divine feminine and making the world an absolute better, more blissful, joyful place for all of us.
Well, that just sounds like a place I'd like to hang out all the time.
Yeah,
and
so
eat your
like
chocolates.
I guess that's the thing with spirit led. Like, I don't know what it's like for you in your business, but there is so much unknown and surrender and trust involved, and it's God's will. Like, have me do what you want me to do, so that it serves the highest possible good of myself and others. And so maybe I can also ask you, for you in your business, how do you feel spirit leads you, and what does a spiritual leader mean for you?
So this is a very hard question to answer for me. The spiritual leader thing, because I think I don't view, like you said, I don't view myself as a spiritual leader yet. However, what's been happening over the last 12 months is I've been organically attracting, in particular, women in a certain age bracket, usually 40 plus. They're usually just outside of that really deep parenting stage when you've got very young children. So it's a similar stage that I'm in. Society might be perceiving them as old, but they're not quite, they don't think that they're old. So they're really in this phase that some are referring to as the Marga phase of life, which in Sicilian or Italian means wise woman or witch. And quite organically, those women have been attracted to me. And I studied to become a yoga teacher in 2016, and I honestly thought I was just going to become a yoga teacher. And what led me into becoming a yoga teacher was quite, I think that was a point of spiritual awakening in my path in 2015, where I did a meditation and my light was handed back to me. And then from that moment, I knew I was going to study yoga. And I'd wanted to for my entire life, and I just didn't make that decision until I had 2 small children and a massive mortgage in Sydney, and had selected to renovate that house in Sydney. And then, yes, I'm going to go off and study yoga. So I made this crazy decision and studied yoga and attempted to start a yoga business, and really had no idea. And then my spirit led me to find the Institute of the Intuitive Intelligence.
Yes.
And then there was a multitude of things happening at the beginning of 2017, all linked with my awakening. And it was around, we had the renovation went bad. We had to terminate a builder. Money was just flowing out our doors. I had stopped working. I was juggling the kids. Sean was in my husband was in a really difficult job. And I found the Institute for Intuitive Intelligence.
Just disappeared. Sorry, darling, you've just disappeared. I don't know what's happened here. Oh, yeah, I can see you now. I don't know.
Okay, cool. That's all right. So there was this whole period of just absolute suffering and chaos in 2017. And I started the course. Yeah. I'm just going to go sign up to another course after doing a course for a year. And so you make these decisions. I'm not even sure why I made that decision. And things started to change. The ship started to turn around. And from that point, there was a lot of, you spoke about surrendering, and I've surrendered I've had to surrender because there was no other alternative.
Yeah.
Like I'd tried. I'm like, I'll go that way, I'll go this way, none of it's working. So I surrendered. And so the way I'm envisaging my business evolving, and it's still evolving, and I've surrendered to that. Instead of when I left my yoga teach training, I was really pushing. I had to do this and I had to do that. And I've really surrendered now to let it evolve. And what I've seen is a particular type of woman has been attracted to the things I'm talking about. And I think it will continue to evolve. And my life is now, I integrate spiritual practices every single day into my life. Yeah. They've become a no-brainer. They're easy. They're delightful. They have replaced wine, which I was using, and you're a mother of small children, and we can all sort of go into those habits of to find a sense of release at the end of the day. We go and we get that glass of wine. And now my spiritual practices have sort of allowed me to get to that place of bliss, and I don't need something external to me to do that for me. So did that answer the question? I'm not sure it did.
Yeah, because you're living and you're breathing that. You're absolutely living and breathing. Your life is spiritual. So you have your practices.
It is now.
Yeah, I totally relate.
And what's interesting is, and I think you can see it happening in your life too, and I went back to my professional job at the end of last year, so that my husband could leave his extremely stressful job and be a stay-at-home father, which is something quite unconventional. And so I went back into my professional trained job as a scientist. But what's happened, and I never thought I would do that. I thought, I'm not going back into that world. I've had enough of that world. And what's happened is, by having that continual spiritual practices, it's actually started to bleed into that. And I've now started to realise there is no separation.
Yes.
And there needn't be, and that you can express yourself in that world where before the perception might have been, oh, well, I can't reveal that aspect of myself because it's going to be seen as being a bit, well, she's a scientist. Why is she into, being so spiritual? She's meant to be just a scientist. So the
what does that look like? Is that just loving people and communicating in a compassionate way and having gratitude? And
it's coming up across clients and knowing perhaps they have a problem, and perhaps it's not the problem that's coming out of their mouth, and perhaps that I'm doing other work while I'm doing the mind work that they're paying me to do, and holding the team that I'm working with, like loving them all as my children almost. And also my clients and what they're trying. So I work in the environmental arena, so it does have an impact on Mother Nature, what I'm doing, and finding the intent behind that. And I'm helping clean up Mother Nature. And so whatever goes on around that, using the skills that I've obtained from the course that we've just completed with the Institute for Intuitive Intelligence, has enabled me to depersonalize all those interactions. Not about me anymore. and I can step back, and basically things happen a lot more easier, and you get into what yoga would be called the flow state.
Yeah.
And things happen with ease, and this ease and grace. And so that's the bleeding of the spirituality into everyday life. And hopefully people will realise that there is no separation. Yes. And even though you might have had this and then this, oh, look, it starts to all sort of come together. So it's
nothing that's not spiritual.
There's nothing that's not spiritual. And I was floored. Directors of my company, I've spoken to them about these things that I've wanted to sort of integrate into the company, just as to see if putting this type of energy into a company can elevate it.
Yeah.
You know, so and they're not.
And isn't there a study done as well that the most successful entrepreneurs are those that are acting on their intuitive guidance as well? Like a lot of them are actually highly, highly intuitive, and they're willing to trust that initial instinctive gut.
I have one director like that. He's like that. Yeah. He just he'll either be nah or yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Ooh. There's something else that came into my mind to chat about that I think both you and I have experienced, and that is also in regards to spirit, having a very Catholic upbringing and the perception of God. And I saw your post today, and I realized that, I had that similar experience, and how God is always this authoritative figure outside of. And we are now saying as priestesses that we are God, that you are God, that each of us is. And that is really breaking a cultural perspective and a social belief system that maybe we're currently in. And I think more and more people are becoming aware of that. But it is hard for a lot of us to believe that we are actually have that power, that we are that creative and that powerful. And I love that. Yeah, for me, that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah.
And that's why I had to put that post up today, because it's taken me a little while over the course of the last 12 months to come to terms with that word. And because I tend to I'm not going to use a word, and in particular in yoga it was the same. I wouldn't use a Sanskrit word until I actually understood the meaning of it. So for many years I didn't use the word namaste because I really didn't understand what's the meaning of that word. Why am I really saying it?
Yeah.
And God was the same. So for the longest time I would say divine and universe. And then it's happened just recently where I resolved my indifference with, and it's become indifference with this word now, because it really is, it's just a word, but it's a simple word to say. And if we can start the conversation as we have today, and it has started on social media, that God doesn't refer to an entity outside ourselves, and God is neither male nor female, and God is in everything, then we can start to reclaim our spirituality back from perhaps religions that may not have necessarily done a great service. So it's interesting that you had a Catholic upbringing as well.
Yeah. And it's really exciting. By giving us the power, then we get to know that we as individuals can actually make a difference and make the world a better place. We're that powerful. And it's about how we be, exactly like you're saying in your work as well, by choosing to be loving in that space, and the vibration that you're holding and the way that you're being at home with your kids. And you're not just going out being all spiritual and lovey on the external and losing your shit at home, like you're ruined in all areas of your life.
And that's the other thing that I've noticed with my children, is that when I was in that really a suffering state, and in yoga they'd call it a real rajas state, where the mind is really like a lot of chatter, that chatter has diminished for me now. I can get myself back to what's called a calm state or a sattvic state quite easily. But when you're in that state, and when you're with the kids, we've all been there, and you can be perceived as this spiritual person, but you're still yelling at the kids at home. And I was still doing that. I was meant to be a yogi, and I was still doing that. And over the last 12 months with the integration, and it's the integration of these learnings into your life. It's not just learning them, it's the integration. Yeah. The yelling at the kids has stopped. There's situations now where I can see my husband falling into that frustration because you feel it, where you've been with the kids all day. Yeah. And you just actually need some space to yourself and to step back. And I think you can do that now. And me doing this course has enabled my husband to do that, to take that moment and to step back and go, okay, let's just all have a break here so that we're not getting
spiraling.
Yeah.
Oh, are you there?
Well, you're back. You're back. You're not just your name.
My battery just came up, so it was full before, so hopefully it's not running low, but we'll see. I don't know how long we've been chatting.
Hang on, let me have a look. Oh, it doesn't tell me a time, unfortunately.
That's okay. Yeah, so, there was another thing, but I can't remember. It slipped out of my brain, but yes. Yeah, I felt the same in my own family, like huge shifts in my marriage. Like it's actually saved my marriage, this work. And awesome dynamic with my kids now. And just being able to learn how to meet my needs and support myself and ask for support and, allow myself to receive. And it's just been everything has changed, because instead of needing people outside of me to be different, or instead of needing anything, I've actually been able to source it all from within. And that's what I wanted to just say, like maybe for people watching, what exactly do we do that allows us to go from a pretty stressful life into a more spirit-led, peaceful life? And for me, the things that I specifically do are the heart coherence practice, and the meditation as well. And a lot of the time, I don't have a lot of time, so I don't get to sit down for hours on end. So for me, it's often a quick choice, and it's early morning and late arvo and evening before bed, and it's a prayer, like it's intention and devotion. And when fear shows up, being willing to get curious and just observe it and sit with it instead of letting it take over and spiral, which it used to do before. So there's been freedom around that. Like, fear still runs, but I can actually sit and be quite calm in the face of fear, which is pretty huge. And even my husband says, he's like, you're so much more peaceful, you're calmer, and they notice that.
Yeah, so for me, I practice because I'm working a full-time job. I'm back working a full-time job, which I hadn't done for many years. I have to do my practice in the early morning before I go to work. So it's usually maximum, like the days that I'm travelling to Sydney, it's 30 minutes. And the days I'm not travelling to Sydney, it might be 45 minutes. And it's an integration of breath-led asana. Yeah. So, and the asana is not complicated. I'm not standing on my head or doing anything or bending myself into a pretzel. For God's sake, I just got out of bed. I'm 40, so I'm not bending myself. I'm really doing a breath-centered practice, and that allows me to drop into my body and connect to my body. And the breath allows me to connect to my nervous system and start to really focus, and you start to bring yourself into that present moment. And so by the time I finished, really probably only 15 minutes of asana, and I come to pranayama, which is conscious breathing essentially, and you're attempting to lengthen your exhale, so you're controlling your breathing, and that then stimulates the vagus nerve, which reports back to your brain to calm the brain down, and that's how you can start to really bring yourself to what I referred to before as a sattvic state or a calm state of mind. So the thoughts start to stop rolling, basically. You're clearing the thoughts out. And by the time I finish that practice, I'm ready to move into stillness, and that's meditation. Now, I've only just started what I would call real meditation over the last 12 months. It's taken me, I've been practicing yoga for like 15 years. Yeah. And it's only been the last 12 months where I've really come to a space where I can sit with an open chest, breathe freely, tall spine, and not have those thoughts constantly rolling. Of course, the thoughts still come in, and that's not a bad thing. You're not telling the thoughts to go away. Yeah. And then usually after the meditation, I move also into heart coherence. Yeah. And that's generally, on average, how I start my day. Sometimes it's flexible, though. That routine's flexible. It's not, I have to do this. And that's what I want to convey to viewers, is that if you are a mother in a busy period of your time, or perhaps you are an older mother with older children, still lots of responsibilities and busyness, your spiritual practice doesn't have to be like an hour. No, it could be 5 minutes. Yeah. All that matters is it's intentional and it's consistent.
Yeah. And it takes work. Like, you do have to be committed. It's a commitment. It's a willingness and a devotion to step up and really. And
what you're talking about there is soul fire. You're talking about tapas. Yes. You're talking about what the yogis have talked about for 5,000 years. If you want to feel the bliss, you have to do the work. And I kind of describe it to people, if you want to play a violin, you have to work to learn how to play the violin. That's just something I plucked out of the air, by the way. Yeah. And if you want to know what your spirit is and feel your spirit, you have to do the work, because there's all this 3D stuff going on in the world to distract you. So, yes, thoroughly agree.
Yeah, I love it all. Oh, it's been amazing. And, you just... I can just see you as your intuitive in guide serving these women. Like, your energy is just divine, and your ability to hold space for others as well. So, yes, I'm so excited to see how your business evolves.
And I'm very excited to see yours too. And of course, eat more of your chocolate. I'll be buying more. There's no doubt about that.
Darling. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all evolves too. And it is such an honor to serve, isn't it? It's such an honor to be here.
That's the other thing that I wanted to ask you is, why do you want to do this?
Because I don't know, like, I think I've always been someone that's wanted to make a difference. It's the soul aspect. It must be. Yeah. Because I've tried to not do it like you try every other avenue, but the soul is hungry. And the soul wants to be fed, and the soul is fed by being love, in my opinion, anyway. And that's all there is. That's who I am. That's my true nature. And there's nothing that gives me greater joy and bliss than to embody that. And so I've felt the suffering. I've been on the flip side, and to do the work and own my essence and have that infuse every cell of my being and radiate outwards. That's the only reason I'm here, really. It's just to love the fuck out of everything.
Yeah. And I don't think I can say it any better than what you said it. Yeah. So there's been moments, if I look back at my life, there's been moments where I've been called to do certain things. I'm like, why the hell? I was like, when I was 15, I wrote a poem about the Exxon Valdez. That's my first recollection that I was interested in the environment. Yes. And I had this pull that I needed to do something to help the environment. That was in like the 1990s or something. And then when I was 15 also, it's like I was thinking about Catholicism. Did I say that right? Anyway, to be Catholic. And then I discovered paganism, and I started, thinking about it. And I was really into science then. And I was thinking, well, so there was all these blips along the way. And then when I left uni after studying, I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm going to go do belly dancing. I'm going to study astrology. I'm going to do a sewing course. Well, the things that stuck were astrology and belly dancing. And then then I was drawn to yoga. But then there was a blur. So I had the kids, got married, had the kids,
motherhood,
blur. And then afterwards something kind of felt like something happened. I went down the wrong path.
Yeah. You just
something happened. I lost. Yeah, and got a firm boot back onto the path.
Yeah.
And
that happens with motherhood as well. Like when you're you get physically taxed and depleted, and your body is being eaten, and you're constantly giving and giving and giving. So it's easy to just go into survival mode in that state and lose that tapas, that soul fire.
Yeah.
But it comes back, and it's so beautiful that you're serving women in that age group, because when the children do get older and leave home, it's like, well, who am I now? Like, what the hell do I do with my time?
Yes.
And it's, no greater time than that time to go, hey, let's go in. What does your soul desire? What do you want to express in the world?
Yeah. And I just want to, I want to say to women that are watching is that it's never too late.
Yes.
It's never too late. If you want to find yourself, no matter where you are in your life, and it's never too early, by the way, there's some younger women watching this. It's never too early and it's never too late.
Yeah. Like there's a 60-year-old woman who's started yoga. She's like 90 now. She started at 60 and she's like some amazing yoga guru.
I know. And and there's women that have come to my belly dance classes, like they've turned up and gone, I'm 72, you know.
I love it.
And then I had an 84-year-old woman coming to my belly dance classes and they loved it. Like they just loved it. So it's never too early and it's never too late. And all I can say is that if you see little instances that have happened in your life story that have suggested maybe there's a little bit more to this than what you're seeing and sensing, and I'm not going back now.
Yeah.
No. So
too much love to share.
Yeah, too much love to share. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, my darling. Well, I'm conscious of our time. I think we've done it.
Yes.
I think it's been maybe 40 minutes or something.